Not too hot, not too cold.
It's not too big and it's not too small.
It's not too quiet, not too boisterous.
Loja, Ecuador is like a Goldilocks city.
But did we know that before we chose it to be our new home?
Not really.
We're Blake and Brittany.
We created Average Family Abroad to show what our life was like here as expats in southern Ecuador. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit how we chose to live here in the southernmost province of Loja.
Let us know in the comments how you chose where you live.
We've never actually been to Ecuador before moving here, but that didn't really deter us in the slightest. But it did mean we didn't really have a frame of reference when it came to choosing a city. So we decided on Loja entirely off of secondhand information from YouTube, blogs, Google, stuff like that.
We had a pretty good idea of what we were looking for, and on paper at least, Loja seemed just right.
To be clear, Loja is our city, the main city, but we don't actually live in the city itself, in Loja.
We use it to talk about the province of Loja also.
Yeah, because it's not just the city, it's also a province of southern Ecuador. So we're about an hour away from the city, and that's been always our goal, to be about that distance from the city. So we live in a small town near a big city, and we went about that by picking the big city before the small town, since we figured we'd have to spend a fair amount of time in that city. So how did we land on Loja specifically?
Well, first we chose Ecuador, of course, and that's a whole other video, but Ecuador, if you look at a map, is a small country, smaller than a lot of U.S. states, in fact.
Very small.
But it's incredibly diverse. It's broken into 4 really specific regions. The Oriente is the Amazon jungle. The Sierras are the mountains, the Andes Mountains. The Costa, shockingly, coast. And the Galapagos Islands, the Galapagos Islands.
We really never considered any region except the Sierras. We're mountain people. Yep. And we were looking for an Andean home, right, in the Andes Mountains here. And so, however, that didn't narrow it down much. Most of Ecuador's major cities trail down the Andes, from the nation's capital up in Quito down to the expat hotspot of Cuenca, which you may have heard of.
And we did briefly entertain the idea of choosing a home within a few hours of Quito and its really alluring international airport and those big city amenities. But we're small big city people, and Quito is very much a metropolis.
Quito is huge. And we do have a bit of a contrarian streak, so we never even considered Cuenca. It's just too popular with expats, and it's also much bigger than we'd like. So
we also just sort of skipped over some other mountain cities like Cotacachi and Riobamba, which have lots to offer and are beautiful, but at that point we'd already kind of honed in on Loja.
Okay, so
why did we hone in on Loja?
Why did we choose Loja? Yeah, why did we choose it? So, number 1, Loja's location.
So again, to the map, Cuenca is considered southern Ecuador. So Loja is basically off the map, even for Ecuadorians. It's way off the beaten track. And we were very drawn to that. When national politics comes up in conversation, Lojanos kind of shrug. Oh, where's Quito? Or
it's a long ways to Quito.
A long ways to Quito. It's been isolated since its founding back in the early colonial period, and Lojanos like it that way.
And the roads haven't gotten better since that period either. Okay, well,
we like it that way too.
We do like it that way. Except when we have to travel internationally. Getting from Loja to one of the international airports in Guayaquil or Quito is a pain.
Huge pain.
There's an airport here in Loja, but it's only got a couple flights a day, which often that means tacking a whole extra day of travel.
Just to be safe.
Yeah. We didn't really appreciate how long it takes to travel anywhere in this little tiny country, and Loja is about as far away from anywhere else as you can get here.
Except for a lot of really compelling small towns. And that was a big factor in our choice, because we decided we wanted to live in a small town near a big city. So we had lots of options to choose from after we got here, and since Loja is such a small, compact city, it's much quicker to get into than the larger cities that have more sprawl, like Cuenca and Quito.
We liked that Loja is actually near an international border.
Peru.
And that the jungle is very accessible.
Just over there.
But not too accessible. I mean, we've got some mountains that block us from the jungle, but that we love also that we're in the region that's just filled with mountains.
We've driven through 11 of Ecuador's 24 provinces, and we've seen incredibly gorgeous places. This is an amazing country. But we can definitively say that Loja is the most beautiful of all.
Yeah, and you really have to see it for yourself to really appreciate
Yeah.
the vastness of the Andes. It's just layer after layer of mountain, rivers and forests and flowers, you name it. It's incredible. It really is. So sometimes we just still can't believe we're here. Number 2, Loja's weather. Yes.
It's a little foggy today. Going along with its location, the weather in Loja seemed really attractive to us, at least on paper, when we were looking at potential cities. And we've said it before, elevation is everything in the Andes Mountains.
Yeah.
So Loja's around 7,000 feet, which is the same as Blake's native Flagstaff.
Woo.
It's cooler than our home here, which is between 6,000 and 6,500 feet. That's the city of Loja I'm talking about.
Yeah. And Cuenca, the expat city north of us, that's about 8,000 feet in elevation. So it's a lot damper and colder. And Quito itself is like 9,000 and 10,000 feet, which
really
is
high.
really high and can be pretty cold.
But it can also be really hot when the sun is shining too.
Yeah.
You get the radiation and it can be brutal
That
the
solar-
higher you get.
Yeah, the solar radiation is intense. Obviously being at the equator and high elevation, but the weather here we just love. We think it's perfect. But we also have the coast and the Amazon, which are of course hot and humid,
No thanks.
which we want no part of. Loja, though, and its surrounding towns and areas are known for year-round, like spring weather, climate all year round. It's amazing, and we loved the sound of that. So,
Okay, number 3, why we were drawn to Loja. Loja's size.
so Loja, the city itself, is around 200,000 people, and so it makes it kind of a mid-sized city. It's less than half the size of Cuenca, and we heard that Loja is very maneuverable, easy to get around, and whether you're on foot or in a car or taxi. And it really doesn't take very long to get anywhere in Loja itself, even with traffic.
Yeah, 15 minutes maybe to cross the city from south to north.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Loja's known for having a small town feel about it. You run into people you know when you're out and about, and that also reminded us a lot of Flagstaff, which is our favorite U.S. city. So Loja has just about everything we could need as far as medical facilities, shops, and amenities go. Doesn't have everything. It's missing a Thai restaurant. What else? Anything else?
Well, sure. I mean, there's things that always have to be brought in to Loja from other cities, because Loja is far away from every other city. But no, it's got just about everything we could need.
We rarely feel compelled to leave.
Very true. Number 4, Loja's statistics.
So of course we looked at statistics before making a decision on where to move to. And Loja's internationally recognized as a really clean city, which is totally true, it turns out. Lojanos take a lot of pride in that. And it's really good for morale to walk around a clean city.
It is incredibly clean. It is like surprisingly clean city. It rivals most of the cities in the United States. Actually, it's way cleaner than most of the cities I've
Yes.
been in the United States. And I don't know if it's real or not, but they always claim that they've won the award for cleanest city. But
Maybe they gave themselves the award, but they deserve it.
they deserve it. It's clean. It's impressive. Like there's always people out cleaning. Everyone takes care of the city, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really well maintained. And also, it's pretty safe statistically, both in regards to crime and natural disasters.
Yeah, it's not as earthquake prone as other parts of the country are, like the coast in particular. And we don't have any active volcanoes down in this part of Ecuador. There are lots of volcanoes in Ecuador, but most of them are further north. But of course we take all of that with a grain of salt, because stuff can happen anywhere.
As far as crime and disasters go.
True.
We've been in many, many small tremblers. Is that a word?
Tremblers?
I'm getting my Spanish confused
know.
with my English.
There's like 15 words for earthquake in Spanish.
Depending on the severity of the earthquake. Yeah.
So there's been a few
Temblores.
few small earthquakes since we've been here, but nothing. I mean, the biggest one when we first got here, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the worst one we've ever felt."
And it
we're
was
like,
nothing
that was
compared
hardly
to
anything,
what
yeah.
we've been in the United States. So that was encouraging.
Yep.
We have had and are currently dealing, in fact, with landslides due to excessive rain
Yeah, this rainy season came on strong after a long, long drought.
and a period of fire. So,
Yeah.
but that's it. Landslides and flooding, but
Otherwise, yeah.
Rambling.
Rambling's good. All right.
All right, number 5, Loja's culture.
Loja is known actually as the music capital of Ecuador, which is pretty interesting. And so lots of talented musicians and artists come out of here. It's got its own highly regarded orchestra, and those concerts are almost always free.
Which is really cool.
It's also home to multiple universities. Lojanos are quite educated, fairly intellectual as people in the city. But they're also very attached to the campo, to the country where we are.
Yeah, there's not this sort of derision towards country people, and I think that's maybe true in all of Ecuador, maybe not the coast, I don't know. Yeah. There's more of a respect for the country way of life still, which is interesting and kind of cool. So we're more homebodies than like go out and doers, but it did seem that there was a fair amount to go out and do in Loja as far as nature, and also in the city itself, things like movie theaters and festivals. One movie theater, but lots of festivals.
Lots of festivals. There's something to celebrate every week. Number 6, Loja's language.
So Loja is famous for its pure, beautiful Spanish, and it has not disappointed. That's partly, again, due to the isolation after the colonial period, when obviously the Spaniards introduced the language and there weren't a lot of outside factors influencing it at that point. So it's easy to understand, it's slow and clear and gorgeous, and it doesn't have any goofy regional variations. I truly cannot think of a better place for my family to learn the language.
Well, except for when we first moved here during the pandemic.
And everyone wore masks.
Everyone wore masks, and at the bank you were behind glass and they were wearing a mask, so it was like, I have no idea what you're saying.
I couldn't understand them either, and I speak Spanish, or already spoke Spanish at that point.
But Brittany is right. It is the most articulate Spanish I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, you should come here just to experience its beautiful, glorious Spanish. So there's not a lot of English spoken in the city itself. A lot of the Lojanos don't speak English, and there aren't a lot of expats yet. And we liked that. That was a big draw for us. That's that contrarian thing again.
Yes.
We didn't want to be surrounded by expats, but lo and behold.
We live close to a town called Vilcabamba, which is packed full of English speakers. So what can you do? Okay, so did we think of any downsides to Loja at all?
Well, we figured it was far away from things, and we were right, which is what, upside and downside. And what else?
Let's see. Maybe sometimes we'd like that it would get a little colder sometimes.
When we were designing our house, we really contemplated if we should put in like a fireplace or a chimenea or something, and we didn't. And we don't need it. We don't heat or cold. We don't heat or cool our house. But we really like the ambiance of that. And if we had been just another 1,000 feet up, we could have justified a fireplace, and that would have been fun.
Because it's amazing how quickly that temperature changes with elevation.
We're in wool and a sweater, and so it's not hot here right now.
No.
Also, I remember thinking that Loja didn't have much as far as private schools go, and we homeschooled when we moved here and had every intention of continuing homeschooling. But it did cross my mind that maybe in the future we would be interested in a Christian school specifically for language learning for the kids. And there aren't any, at least not any large Spanish language Christian schools. I think there have been maybe missionary schools or expat schools off and on, but there was nothing that really appealed to us that way. And now our kids do go to the public school in our little village, and we're really happy with that. And they've learned the language.
Yeah, they're much better in Spanish than I have now. But no, so we didn't really see a whole lot of downsides to Loja. It didn't feel really like a compromise at all.
No.
We were excited to get here. We've lived here now, how many, 3.5 years?
Yeah.
We've come to love and appreciate many more things about Loja too, stuff we had no idea, things that weren't on our radar when we chose it as our new home. But those 6 things are what made Loja stand out to us during our selection process. So
ultimately, I think we both were drawn to Loja. Anytime we'd look at a map, our eyes kind of drifted south. And we're realistic enough to know that we could have found our home, our place, in one of a dozen small towns, by a dozen big cities, all across Ecuador, all across the mountains. But through planning and providence, this is where we ended up, in this tucked away corner of this tucked away little country. And we can't imagine being anywhere else.
Yeah, no, this is home, and I said we feel blessed that we were able to end up here. because we could have very easily been close to Cuenca or Quito or another big city, and who knows what life would have been like.
But Loja's special.
Loja is very special, even if it's small and far, far away. But have you ever been to Loja? Are you considering a move by chance? Let us know in the comments. Seriously, we love the comments, and we're happy to answer any Loja related questions that you may have. Also, like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to Average Family Abroad. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.